a great script. I'm telling you, it was phenomenal. It really was. It really was. And I think if anything, our job was to not get in the way. And I think we really helped each other get out of the way of the story and really just challenged each other to fill the shoes of these characters as best as we could. And again, I think our job was to show up and really work together, support each other, and not get in the way of what was a really good script. And I auditioned for NYU, and I got in, and that has been the biggest break of my career. When I think about it, it's just having that education and just being around other people, having teachers keep telling you that it's not about you, that it's about these characters, being around people who are more talented than you, that help you come up, and you guys kind of, in a really positive way, challenge each other, not compete, but work with. That was great for me. They teach truth-telling, honestly, certain techniques that end up opening up the world for you. So really the 17-year education, we get, if you go to a conservatory or you go to one of these schools locally or study, however, whatever your route has been, if you have great teachers, they really are just trying to encourage you to be as truthful as possible and to bring these characters to life. And in a way that understanding how you learn, understanding how you metabolize information, and just try to make these people believable and be there with your scene partner. But then
you think you go to school for 3 years and you come out and you can do it. You're just you got it all figured out. And if anything, you get out of school and you begin to look at all the parts of you that have been sort of dismantled, and you start to kind of like reconfigure your instrument and use certain elements of yourself and lean on certain ingredients or attributes that you may have and sort of orchestrate those things in a way that is appropriate for whatever job or role that you may be faced with at that time. And I also feel like I began to understand things about the world because of having to step in the shoes of such a wide range of characters or worlds. I felt very stretched by the time I got out. And the challenging thing, though, is, and I think what grad school can kind of set you up to be somewhat, at least in the time in which I was coming out of school 20 years ago, it can kind of set you up to be a little bit disappointed in the world, right? Because you're not going to suddenly, it's not about colorblind casting or you getting to play all these interesting characters or things that challenge you in a certain way. That you begin to deal with the very narrow perspective and framework of how Hollywood sees you and what or the industry, I should say, sees you, sees your culture, or sees what you may or may not be right for. And so then a very new fight begins to happen where you're trying to prove that you can do more because you've experienced doing more, because you're like, I'm playing a 65-year-old white dude 2 years ago in this play and I felt like we did pretty good. So I know I can play this character. I feel like I should be given the opportunity. I feel up for the challenge. So I think it created a real determination for me to make choices that felt as broad and diverse as possible, so that I stayed engaged and interested, and so that I could keep learning things.
If you're fortunate enough to book enough jobs, at a certain point, you have to be cognizant of what it means to be in show business. Mm-hmm. And there's parts of it that at a certain point, if you deny their presence, then you're just being foolish. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a difference between projects that the mass public watches and projects that the people who can give you your next job watch. Mm-hmm. Like, those are not the same jobs, you know? And I've been fortunate to just find myself on projects where I would walk into casting offices and it wasn't just a credit on my resume, mm-hmm. that they had watched it. And so it's a point of reference for you walking into a room, and they can advocate for you in talking to producers or casting directors. That makes it makes a difference. And so I've been fortunate to have that 17 years into a professional career. That began to educate me on the expectations of me and me taking personal responsibility and not having expectations of anyone outside of myself, because then you're expecting the business to be fair, right? And it's not here to be fair.
No.
But and I can't control that, so you leave yourself going home frustrated a lot. So what I can do is just try to be my best self and to be a professional when I work, to treat people well, make friends and allies, and nurture those relationships in an organic way, you know, and I think it's helped me.
I know someone asked about, all the actors acting against each other, and you made a point of saying, like, well, we never acted against each other.
Right.
We acted together.
Right.
I mean, have you always had that spirit of collaboration, or was that something that you was taught at school?
Well,
or?
and that's where the sports thing comes into play. With your team, you always thought of it as we win together, lose together. And so that was helpful in working on ensembles and being, even after many years, 5th or 6th on the call sheet, and whoever, Kevin Spacey's number 1, or you name the actor, Ryan Gosling, or whoever. But so your job is just to do your job when they pass you the ball, and if it ends up being a good project, everybody contributed in some way. Some people just got more minutes than others. So I just kind of looked at it that way always, and really just tried to be a good teammate. But then there's also a point where you just want to be in the game more, and it's great to come in and do your best and make your shots, but you kind of feel like, I feel like I'm kind of been making my shots when I come off the bench. Can I get a little more time? Like, how's that work? and then some people are like, you're a really good, special teams guy. You're like, nah, I want to do more than that. I see more than that for myself, because you gotta be the first to believe. You really do. And I would rather err going out like that, where I feel like I could do more than what I can do, than to accepting what someone else feels I could do. Like, I would always rather err on that side of going for what I believe in, opposed to settling for someone else's limited understanding of what I could do, So, and I would always encourage anyone else, if they feel like, I could do that, I'm like, all right, cool, do your thing. Like, what do you gotta do to make that happen? If it don't happen, it doesn't happen, but at least go out going for it, I look, and you got to know yourself, and especially in that time when you're doing all this digging and searching and trying to figure out what you believe in and who you are, and we always do that, but that's a heightened time of doing that. I stopped identifying with being an athlete in a certain way, and part for a couple of reasons, but the whole beat the other person thing, at a certain point, that just didn't motivate me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it took me outside of myself. But what I loved about acting, I just kept feeling like, whether it was actually stated or not, I felt like it was about being your best self. And you and I could have the same material, but it was about you metabolizing that information in a way that really worked for you. And I could metabolize that same and digest that same monologue, and they both be equally amazing, but we look different, feel different, have different experiences, have a different take and perspective on certain thoughts in it, and it could be equally great. And so there was such an emphasis in the arts, of you finding your own voice, not what a scoreboard said at the end of 40 minutes, and just with the body and the kind of feeling like you are participating in this sort of ambitious stepping stone thing for coaches and whatnot. Like, it just felt like a business at a certain point. And this is a business too, but I just have more input. I have space to develop and articulate my voice. And there's points when you don't feel that way, but as time passes, and if you're fortunate enough to keep working and you have enough opportunity, you can feel really empowered by this experience. I always wanted to do film and theater, and because when I got into the business, television was it was a job.
Yeah.
It wasn't where you could explore. It wasn't where you had where people were doing great character work. There was 2 or 3 HBO shows. Like Sopranos, I think, was like one of the first shows, but nobody's getting that job.
a handful of people getting to work at HBO. Everything else was CSI ... You know, it was like when I got, and that's no diss, it's just, they were all procedurals, essentially, you know, and there were a couple of solid serials, but it was where you could pay those grad school loans, you know, and like, let me get in here and like pay these bills and try to do great work. But I really wanted to just do great work, and the films that I loved, the actors that I loved, were in either world, and there wasn't a lot of crossover. Now theater, you can't even do theater in New York unless you are famous.
Yep.
You know, but when I was in school, theater was like, that's where you go and get it. You know, you do your thing, you work it out, and you get better, and you really, you know, you get to work with great directors, and you're tired when you go home, and you improve, and you break down, and that's where it was. But now you gotta be like 30 on IMDb's star meter to get a play. And it's just the nature, it's just what the business is. Now you can work off Broadway, sort of, but even that it's interesting, it's an amoeba, it's always changing, it always is changing, and it's always challenging for you. And that's just the honest to goodness truth. And that's why it really makes it important for you to know why you're doing it. When I say you, for those who maybe can't see, just other actors in this room, that it's really important for you to be connected to it from the standpoint of, I'm just trying to do great work. I'm just trying to get better. Like, I don't think I'm great at all. I just think I've been for 20-something years just trying to get better. And just sometimes people just start noticing you, and you go, all right, cool, I appreciate you noticing. I'm just a work in progress. I'm just trying to improve. And if my next job I get, people pay attention and it sells some tickets, cool. But my job has been the same since I started, and which is just, I'm really focused on just trying to do great work. And sometimes you're able to, with the business of it, go, okay, this project is doing really well, and what I need to do is align myself in a certain way that can set me up to get my next job, which is better, which will be more fulfilling, which will be more challenging, which will require me to put more time and be more focused, but I will have X amount of months to prepare this time. So I'm gonna use that attention in order to get better, you know, and that's how I try, that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Being famous is what it is, you know. It means you get to do better work, hopefully, you know, because you just get better opportunities.
It's a great script, I'm telling you. It was phenomenal. It really was. It really was. And I think if anything, our job was to not get in the way. And I think we really helped each other get out of the way of the story, and really just challenged each other to fill the shoes of these characters as best as we could. And again, I think our job was to show up and really work together, support each other, and not get in the way of what was a really good script.
Auditioning is something I'm pretty solid. That's the one thing I'll say I do pretty well.
No
audition.
actor ever admits that. I'm
no,
so glad you say
I'm a
that.
solid I can audition. I can. And I know when I don't do well too, though, and I can tell you why usually, you know. But I can kind of, but I work on my auditions before. Meaning everybody works on their auditions, but I have, my thing is usually pretty worked out. I don't go in unless I'm off book, unless I get to work with somebody. And it's just a skill, and you gotta kind of, that's when you have to be a bit of a magician in the moment, because they have to believe in that take that never cuts away from you, that there's somebody walking by and you're talking to them, or the room is got other people in it. So how you wear the environment is the key to auditioning, you know, and you telling them that, yo, I'm really in a submarine, and that's why I'm talking this way, and there's somebody behind me listening, or whatever. That I do pretty good, you know. And when I fail, I fail. Like I've had some horrible ones, like really terrible ones.
Wasn't there one for Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones was terrible. It was so horrible.
Why did it go wrong?
I'm so mad at that.
There's something about a
audition
chair, I feel like.
Yeah, no, that was horrible. Again, man, I'm so mad at that audition still. Like, seriously, no, I feel a kind of way about that one. Because I just don't like not doing my best work. I'm cool with not getting a job. I just don't like not doing my best work. That's annoying to me. So I worked it out. So this character, the merchant, that was like on season 2 or 3 of Game of Thrones. So, you know, you don't know anything also. Like, they don't give you any information other than the sides, and they'll go, he's a merchant. And you just, and and it just no American accents. I'm just like, okay, cool. He's a merchant. So I do this whole thing. I work it out, and you know, when there's you should watch this thing, this TED Talk on power positions. Yes. Have you ever seen that?
Yes,
like the woman who
it.
talks about power and getting into your power and whatnot. So I watch stuff like that and try to incorporate that into my work. So I was just thinking about a character who was powerful and how they carry themselves and how they sit and, you know, take their time responding to you and whatnot. And so I'd work this whole thing out because I didn't have a lot of information. So I had to cheat essentially and just wear his power in my body and use the dialogue to push the story along. So I have all this worked out, and then I go into the offices, and they're such they're interesting offices. Like you feel like, someone had said this to me a long time ago, in the HBO offices, they feel like what the inside of an iPod would look like. It's just, it's a little bit Gothica or something. And there's like a little bit of, I'm sure it's my own thing, but I could pick up on other actors there. There's a different degree of tension there that people are wearing.
Because it's not
on
TV.
themselves.
It's
HBO. Something about HBO,
Yeah.
you know? And so you just don't feel as empowered there for some reason sometime. And you know, maybe that's something I just gotta personally shake off. But so I get called into the room, having worked out my whole thing and have my positions worked out and whatnot. And I go in there and there's a stool like this high. And it's one of those stools where your feet like are not on the ground, but almost on the ground.
Your feet?
Yeah. No, it's a high stool, and there's like, and I don't think there was like a little one to rest my feet on. So I was like just so thrown with no back, and I just couldn't get comfortable. And it was for Alexa Fogel, who's great, who cast half of HBO stuff. And I had like another like wonky one with her, maybe a year earlier or something. I remember when I had bad ones, and so I just wanted to go in there and just knock it out and just put that at rest. And man, that was horrible. And she said, "Oh, you just," and she's a New Yorker, so she's just real straight up. She's like, "You gotta loosen him up. You're just so stiff." And I was like, "Yeah, because I don't have a damn chair. Like because there's no back to this chair. And she's sitting on a stool, and the camera's perched over her shoulder. So the thing is set up like we're not adjusting any of this space for anyone. So I didn't feel empowered to be like, yo, can I use this chair? Because there was no chairs in the room. It was just two stools. And so I walked out there pissed off because, you know, I didn't have I need to carry one of them things you bring to the stadium. You know, when you go to some sports event, got the little back, you just kind of sit there and have my little portable chair thing worked out. But yeah, that was a tough one. Both. I never wanted to be a character actor. I wanted to be, as a kid, you know, I wanted to be Denzel, you know. Like, not saying that Denzel is not a character actor, but Denzel is a leading man, right? And then at times he really goes in and, like, if you see Hurricane or Malcolm X, and there's time when Training Day where he really clearly does character work, and then there's other times when he's just a friggin' man and carrying that story, and that's what it was for me growing up. And then eventually, like when I played hoop, I wanted to be Michael Jordan, and I had Michael Jordan's number and tried to copy Michael Jordan's move, and at a certain point I'm like, that is limiting because his game is formatted for his own personal skill set. And I can't be Denzel Washington, you know, I can't. That's a mistake. And I went at the Golden Globes the other day. They were sharing some of Meryl Streep's work for some of you who got to see her win that award. And it was amazing to sit back and see how different each of those characters were. And I finally got it. It sounds so stupid, but I was like, wow, she is a character actor. And it really made me want to be a character actor.
Really?
Yeah, like watching that, it made me go, man, I really want to have the time to transform. Because I've always, to this day, I've been hustling. Like, I've just been like, what, the auditions at what? All right, cool. Boop, memorize these, go in, boom, you booked it. All right, you shoot Wednesday, let's go. And just whatever thing I made up real quick and just doing it. I've never had time. I've really never had time to develop a character how I would like to develop it. I've just said yes and squeezed it in my schedule and did it. Whatever I did in an audition, I basically did it, did a that was my start in when I'm working on set. So of course I put thought and time into these characters, but I've never really had, you hear about actors who pick up 30 pounds, you lose 30 pounds, work on your dialect properly and do getting help, hiring help, getting an acting coach. Like, I want to do that. Like, I want to get to like go in and transform and improve, and because just if you have the access, do it. Like, I would love to do that level of work so that I could become a transformational actor, you know, and I just want to grow, and part of that has to do with, yes, size of part, or who's carrying that arc. That has something to do with it for sure. But I think the other part is really about committing to working to be and play characters, and really kind of take the audience on a journey. So that's what I would love to do. And you could do that in certain ways anyway, for sure, without having to be the first person on a call sheet. And I've tried to do that to this point, but I would like to have sitting down, having these meetings and go, oh, we're shooting that in August, let me get ready in my own way.
Right.
And that's what I look to do, because I think I feel like I could do better work.